Nice shirt.
Yeah, I like this one.
Huh?
I like this one.
Yeah. So are we
Yeah, we're live.
oh we are.
Yeah, we are.
Oh, so that's what life feels like. Not much different. Thought we'd chat before we get going, but that's okay. We can chat online. Somebody
Yeah.
told me, get down and reel. Just get down and reel. And I went, okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to we were not real in the last.
That's what I was saying. Like, sometimes when we're having some of our conversations, it's like we should just do this on air. There's like no reason not to.
True.
I think we need to go back to a leadership podcast, personally.
The what?
I think we need to go back to a leadership podcast.
What kind of podcast?
A leadership podcast.
Oh. I'm okay with that.
I just know for me, that topic particularly enthralls me. One, there's certainly the, we'll call it the technical aspects, but I think the bigger component has more to do with that I'm interested in is the walk through the experience of what life is like actually as a leader. And you just hit different milestones. You get new sorts of problems, new kind of things open up to you. And I think that maybe sounds all good, but sometimes it's not.
So, if you go back to leadership, you just be going back to commenting about leadership and talking about the need for leadership, but there is no real. I'm in stage 7 of leadership now.
Now.
I'm in stage 1, 2. There's no stages. There's no some.
Well, I think technically John Maxwell coined some. He coined 5
stages.
He doesn't call them stages, but yeah, effectively what you're saying, yeah. Where it's number 1, you're over yourself. Number 2, you have a small team. Number 3, you're leading people who are leading people. He does have a thing like that, yeah.
Well, I don't mean different aspects of it. I think that's a good thing to share, but you can't really measure yourself and say, to this degree, really good leader or poor leader, and to this degree, I'm not. I don't know if there's any kind of.
Oh, actually, I've got a fantastic book on that. 21 Laws of Leadership.
Yeah, laws, but not. What I'm trying to say is being able to make a judgment call on a leader or on yourself that you are. I can't think the word of it, but the progression can be misleading because you don't know how good you are, how bad you are, sometimes, and sometimes people will say.
I think these.
I don't know. Everybody's
know.
Against Trump. He's a lousy leader, the worst ever.
Oh, I see.
And others say yes, he is. Yes, he is. So we're like, I don't think there's a lot of ability to make a judgment call on it.
I would say most people in my walk of leadership, the going along. I can't tell you where I'm at, John, but I can tell you right now, most of the people who comment, they're not worth listening to. Good or bad. Good or bad. Good or bad. There's something to be seen, and that's why I still like the original name, Catch the Vision, because there's something true about it, about this catching thing, this thing that can't be explained, it can only be caught, or it can't be taught, it can be caught. There's something to that. I've actually been thinking about, I wonder if we can use our same setup here to actually stream to Twitter, not Twitter. What's that one platform that everybody,
Instagram?
the kids like? No.
TikTok?
TikTok. The reality is it's. I got some a philosophy book coming. I feel like I'm at that. Maybe because it's winter, it's all gray out. This is my favorite time of the year, by the way. When it looks like this, it's permanently threatening. It's always cloudy. It's always rainy. It's my favorite time of year. But I've got some Cicero coming, and I'm looking forward to it because I've never actually read Cicero. And if you didn't know, he is the origins of the right to bear arms.
I read some, not much.
But I was curious to read some of his stuff. There's a couple different topics and themes that I'm just curious about what somebody has to say from multi-thousand years ago that, would be enough to, push the founding fathers and so on and so on. But what all this to come back to, something that I've gained like a real appreciation for is the difficulty sometimes for people to like actually support and root for the success of a leader. Because oftentimes, and I'd say majority of the times, unless you're in the inner circle, you're critical of the person.
Yeah, I read a book. I can't remember who it was. I remember who he is and what he looks like, but I'd have to ask an old friend who he was. But anyway, his book and his push is submission. He talks about, he shows many examples of submission in the Bible. And then he says, He says that when you're at a place where you live and do what you live and do to make someone else greater. Mm-hmm. In other words, if you're behind a leader, you do what you can to make that leader greater and greater and greater. So you're pushing up, not yourself, but another leader, which I agree with.
Yeah.
I agree with only because I've been there and I had some that were doing that, but they were very
I can
faint,
only imagine the number of people trying to throw stones at you.
Oh, there are probably a lot of stones being thrown, but those were not the biggest problem for me. The biggest problem was you didn't have the support. Most leaders, if they have really good support and they're there to make them great, it makes a big difference as opposed to just trying the best you can. So I agree with that, but that's part of the big picture.
Yeah,
that's part of that vision that I was talking about before. That you need to see why that's bigger and greater and more important than your little world that you're in. Not that that's bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't mean it in a negative way. But if you are living in a way that's making others greater, better, or a leader greater, better, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. In fact, oftentimes God will choose those people for certain anointings. That was his whole book, is submission brings anointing, which
it's 100% true.
It's true, but the way he went about it was a little bit different, but it was okay.
I see.
It was okay. It was okay. I don't know what the book is named. I think I have the book on my bookshelf somewhere, but I got to look that up. But anyway, it's probably better for us to say what we can do rather than criticize, but what we can do to make a person better or greater. It's probably better to do that, especially for me at my age. But I mean, you got a lot of years ahead of you, but I got not a lot of years ahead.
Well, I mean, at like all ages, to be perfectly honest. It's one of those things that it doesn't matter if you're...
Yeah, it's true for all ages.
10, 12 years old plus that, you look at your parents and your parents annoy you. And so then, you'll try to sabotage them or something like that, or go behind their back, or, deliberately disobey them in particular kinds of things. And I mean, there's certainly that kind of aspect, but... And I don't want to try to equate following a leader as a parent, but there's definitely elements there. But it's just one of those things that I've noticed that I've gained appreciation for, because, I mean, I'll be the first one to say that I've been highly critical. I'm actually probably one of the most critical person on leaders you're going to find. And I've kind of realized that leading me is probably really hard. Really hard. It's just I've noticed that so many, because I'm always wondering things like, where are we going? Why are we doing that? That one's a big one.
Well, again, if
that's total bullshit, why are you even imposing it on any of us? That's probably one of my biggest ones. And I'm seeing that at this like new position, in actually kind of a good sense, where some of that stuff is flying around, but some people are tackling that and getting that off people, and I got to be. That is the more rare thing. is where you see somebody who's just going to take all the crap off people and just keep them like focused doing, things that they're really designed to do.
Yeah. I think if someone watched this and heard us get down and real about this kind of thing, it might help them to say, hey, yeah, that's good to know. I was thinking that myself. It's probably a good thing because sometimes you don't hear this anywhere else. And so it makes you think about your leadership, your position, your situation, whether you're going to be helping or hindering.
I would say I'm thinking about it now, like as you were saying that, it would make, I'm thinking, I'm wondering now if we ever did a podcast on this. I think we may have, but I was just thinking about how I think every single day that goes by, I see the like urgency of leadership. It's like it's coming. It's all around us. I mean, maybe it's always been this way. I think I'm fine enough to say something like that. That it's never changed. It's all the same. It just is a little bit different.
I think it's always been that way.
But there are things right now that the people are so bedazzled by that they're utterly confused about reality. And to me, this is the leadership. This is like the leadership challenge of the 21st century, which is that people far and wide are like spinning their wheels on like totally made up stuff. They live in these completely made up human fantasies about like narratives of this and that and the other, and then they miss like the giant big picture of stuff. It's like the people here who still don't know where they live. It's super weird to me. This was like the poorest place in the entire country. I think it still is. It's still one of them. And yeah, people have moved here from outside and they're like, yeah, we just need to get like a good business in here. It's like, that's not how it works. Like, that's not how a business comes here. It's by you wanting a good business to come here. You're not even in the economy.
Yeah, or whatever.
There's no reason for it. In fact, the thing that's most funny to me is everybody moved here because of certain elements and aspects, but none of that had to do anything with that there were businesses here or for an economic incentive. No one moved here for an economic incentive. I think you know that, John. This is the most economic disincentivized place on planet Earth as far as I'm concerned.
Disincentive.
And people look at me as like some weird doomer. It's like, dude, I'm not a doomer. I just literally just do the math and I go, we just moved. Like, I wish I could take you, John. You just went to like Atlanta, right?
I what?
You just went to Atlanta, right?
That was a whole big fiasco.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I didn't hear what it was, but I just heard fiasco.
I'm mad at myself for not catching on to it quicker. But it was it was a major fiasco. Very poorly done, very poor.
You went to a conference.
No, I went to I was going to take a job with a company.
Oh, you did? Oh, I see.
With a trucking company. But there was so much screw up. And then they told me things that I would have to take 2 or 3 weeks, maybe more, to get prepared to even come there and have it ready for them. They told me that when I got there, and I'm like, why didn't you tell me this when I first talked to you 2 weeks ago or a week ago?
Yeah.
If you had that all, I would have brought it with me. We'd have been a lot farther.
Oh, I saw.
Instead, you're going to have to go back home, and we'll get back to you. Get us this stuff. Get us this. Get us that. It's really stupid stuff. Some of the stuff is really, really stupid. Like, I have one hearing aid. One's blown. I got one good. One I don't have at all. And they say, "Oh, you got to have another hearing aid. You can't come here with one hearing aid."
What?
You never? Yeah, that was a what? What has that got to do with the? I took every test that they had.
Is that some sort of like check in the box?
I guess, but they made a big deal about it. I took all their tests, passed all their tests, all the driving, everything, truck, everything, driving, everything about the road, and these typical things they give you, aced all that stuff, no problem.
Yeah.
But they hear a irregular heartbeat. But I even got a thing from a doctor saying I have what's called a sinus arrhythmia.
Okay.
You're born with it. It's a what's that word?
Genetic.
Yeah, and that that's the way you are. It's not something we can fix. But but they didn't tell me that.
And that's not something that has developed.
No, and I go back. We got to get a letter from the doctor. Well, I'm in a different doctor in a different zone now. I'm in Tennessee, not New York, and you got to go through all this stuff to get that okayed and set. That means I got to go through all kinds of tests.
Oh man.
And then there was something else. What was the other thing?
John, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about. I'm just gonna be blunt with you now.
Yes.
I look at you and I go, what in the hell? What kind of society requires you to do its trucking?
Requires me to do trucking?
Yes. Dude, I mean, if you look at the big picture, on what universe would it make sense that the logistics industry should be supported by somebody over 70 years old? I can't think of a single universe where that would make sense. But that is the universe that is.
I wish that was true, but in a perfect world, maybe. But in this world,
Not only that, John, you had to travel like 1,000 miles away to go do an administrative thing, which turned into you got to go back and we'll do this again some other time.
Oh, it was a mess. It was a fiasco.
Think about how insane that is. That's like utterly insane, but that's like everything that you describe is like a normal, nothing you described is out of the normal right now. Everything is turned in this weird Kafka bureaucratic nonsense mess. It's ridiculous.
It is, but it's also due to the fact that the waywardness of man has caused all these problems, and now they got to try to fix them or do stuff to head off all this stuff.
Well, the way they're doing it, John, is they're doing it with management.
Yeah, it's management.
It's management. It has nothing to do. I mean,
yeah, but I mean that's just let's move. I mean, from there, I know that's true. I knew no company's perfect. I just went there to make more money. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm strictly there to make more money, and I wasn't even going to be there 6 months to.
Well, I just wonder, why would you need to do that? I know the answer to this. The answer to it, to be perfectly honest, is
because I need to make more money. Why?
Yeah, why do you need to make more money? I know the answer. The answer, it's actually became very simple to me about a week to 2 weeks ago. People say this kind of stuff, but it like really makes sense to me now. Like I saw the kind of the multi-step mechanics of how this works. It's because we have a soft monetary system. The reality is
no doubt about that.
You cannot a normal person, I don't think a normal person is going to survive in this existing environment. Everything that like makes a person like a good person is not a thing that will make you do well in this world. Not anymore. You have to
you got to have fixes. So what I'm saying is, you're right. I think it's going to get better, but right now everybody has to find up fixes. Fix this, fix that, fix that. Trump has all these fixes, and we're trying to live by fixes, and it doesn't work that way because some things have to take time and grow up and step upon step on step, and
now that's
build
true.
a foundation. Instead, they're doing fixes. In the meantime, they're doing fixes.
To your point, let's assume that there's like 5 or 6 layers or whatever. The problem is actually at the 1 or 2. The bottom would probably be like the moral foundation, the identity of the country. And by country, I mean down to the individual man. The identity of those people in aggregate. After that, you're probably talking about stewardship of resources or something like that. And then you eventually get up here. All of those patches you're talking about, they're in these top layers. None of them are in the bottom. There's just none of them. They're literally, I think right now,
all those top layers have let everybody down because so much different crap has crept into there that people lost their way. And that's why they need fixes. That's why they're saying, we need to fix this. How do we bring some fixes in? And I'm saying we can't live on just fixes.
They're outgrowths of symptoms from other things. And where I was trying to go with this is the average man, the only thing that they know how to do is save. They don't have any other skills than that. They just don't. If you want to survive now financially, you have to be very financially acumen. I don't even feel like I'm that good at it, and who's going to outcompete me? The only part, I mean, I'm sure if I lived in a city and was connected and had resources flowing my way, i.e., I was doing management of like resources, I probably would be doing, much better or whatever. But I look at all the various people that I interact with, and I'm like, I don't know how the hell you're going to make it. You have so many aspects of your personality are making you like guaranteed not going to succeed. And I try to help them, and I've had to tell my wife multiple times, like, "Hey, you just gotta keep trying, It's like, dude, that's not how this works. So it's just one of these things that I just keep seeing that how much of my role in my life is like leading in this really complicated world and taking normal people with me. And I'll tell you, John, like I deal with these people like at work and in Northern Virginia and stuff who live kind of different lives. They're in this bubble, like in this kind of corporate machine. So almost anybody I meet over there has some level that they're within, like the corporateness. They're not at the base floor. Even if they came out of a university, they're still kind of getting their feet wet, but they still have like a mental inclement towards that. And then I'll get off like those calls or whatever, and then I interact with people here and I realize like, these are normal people. That is not normal.
No.
And I personally would choose the normal people over the corporate people, because I can work with them actually really well because they're inclined to be orderly and productive in a certain kind of way. And so, but on the flip side, the majority of people are not like that. And this system right now is not. It is completely inclined towards mega corporations and mega corporation politics. And everything else is sliding off the map. Everything. You literally can't survive as a normal human being. You just can't. I'm seeing it all over the place. And these normal mechanisms that would be kicking in, they're all gone. And I think it's because the identity of man, i.e., like their place and their activation in Christ, is very lacking. And then after that, they do not have the kind of stewardship of resources that they should. Right now, the administration, their way they're trying to solve stuff is by papering it over. Steal from Peter to like pay Paul, but the core mechanisms are still there. And they want them to be there. I already know how all those people think. They want, for example, an inflationary currency because they can take out more and more amounts of debt and then they can pay for it with growth. I mean, Trump has said it 5 million times. That's Trump's play. Trump's been like a perfect person since like the 1980s to like fall into that realm of like, we'll just take out more and more amounts of debt. That's what it is. And what that means is unless you're a person who thinks like that, you don't have a chance.
I observed something that's interesting. I can share it with you here.
Yeah.
Just sitting here. So everything, in a way, seeks its own level, as we say. But we build like this. Building was built on level. The floor is level, give or take a smidgen.
Yeah.
The windows are level. The up and down right of they're not like this. They're not slanted. They're 90 degrees. They're plumb. And so I'm looking out this window and I see the roof of the other house, and I can look at the bottom of the window and it actually lines up perfectly with the jut out roof that's jutting out of the back of the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can tell if that's if I sit and I go, that's dead level too. They built that roof dead level. Now the point I'm making is this: when you look out that window, which is level and the building's level, you see the trees out there, and if you line them up with the edge of the left or right side of the window, you can see that those trees are either like this or like this or like that. You can see that they are not lining up with level windows or anything. They're technically all over the place.
Yeah.
And some bend and some whatever. And so a lot of people are making judgment calls on what is nature, which is amazing. There's a lot more truth to nature than we realize. And we're saying nature is off because I can tell it's not level. I can tell it, and we're comparing nature with our system of level, on our system of plumb. And Christ has talked about being the plumb line in the Old Testament. And so we don't understand that plumb line is not necessarily like this level window, like this up and down. I mean, we get what plumb is, straight up and down. It's not leaning, it's not left, right, either way. It's just kind of plumb, straight up and down.
Yeah.
But when we take what was made by God and judge it on according to our level, our plumb line, we are saying we're the better thing, and that isn't. Again, nature has been there for a zillion years from creation, and nature actually will take this completely over. If we left it alone, pretty soon all of nature would just take over the whole place. It'd be going back to dirt and trees and everything. That's what happens. So, you see these mansions that are taken over by nature and are almost crumbled to nothing because nature moves on. It's not plumb. It's not level. Now, water is level. That's where we get level from, is level water. So we understand what level is, but we can build by it because that's the best way to build. But what I mean is when we make a judgment call based on how we think level and plumb is, and then we say to nature, no, that's not. If that was God, it would be line up with our. If that was God, it would line up with our level. It would line up with our plumb line. And it's not that way. I find this to be really true. His standard or level is not our level. His ways aren't our ways. His thoughts aren't our thoughts, and his plumb line is not our plumb line. We judge what's nature and what's made by God by our own building, by our own level, our own standards, and so we got it reversed. We really need to see. Of course, it'll be difficult to do now, but we've got to get a hold of the way nature has taught us and go, wait a minute. That's been there hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, and this has been here 10 years, and I'm saying judge nature by this 10-year-old thing? No. We got it backwards. We're thinking that we can make a judgment call on how we think it ought to be instead of saying, let that judge us and let us move. This is why I was talking about in Scripture, there's a concept that has to be understood, caught or not taught. It has to be caught. That catches the fact that we are in Christ, members in particular, parts of his body. But what does his body look like? What does his body do? What's body? What do you mean body? So we have to somehow catch the vision, catch the understanding, catch the big picture that there's a way that can be done. I had a guy talk about how he talks about the works of God, which is the flood or the part the Red Sea. That's the work of God. He said, but some people, they understand that. They read that in the Bible. Oh, that was a work of God. That was a work of God. But they don't know the ways of God. And so what happens is we say, if you exalt this person and make him top leader and everybody agrees together and we'll make this Tower of Babel. And God doesn't say, you missed it, guys. That's not the way. And so he confused their tongue so they get rid of that because that was a big mistake. We say, if I do this and this and make this great guy, make him great, that according to our estimation, we miss it.
I mean, when you say that, that's kind of what Judges and the Kings ends up showing. Really Kings, but just the idea that God's warning the people against having a king, and they're like, oh no, we have to have a king.
Yeah, and all kinds of problems happened because they had a king, and God was saying, look, if you just leave me in charge and let me be your king, I will take care of you, instead of looking to the king. So when he gave them the king, there's another scripture in Psalms that says he gave them their requests, but sent leanness into their soul. Sometimes we get what we want, but we're not really the better for it. And I'm careful to ask. When I ask, that's why it says in the Bible, if you're going to go do this, do that, say, Lord willing. When I pray for something, I go, Lord, in keeping with your will and your willingness for me, I don't want you to give me something and it's the destruction. It will destroy me.
Yeah.
You know, if you give me something that destroys me, how stupid am I? So we've got to back up and let God be God and do the thing. Like nobody expected 10,000 people to erupt in Holy Spirit praise and worship and took over this conference in, I don't know where it was, Atlanta or somewhere down south. And nobody expected that to happen spontaneously. And yet what God did was amazing. Hundreds and hundreds of people repented and got saved right there in an unprovoked.
So what is this?
I don't know where it was or anything. It was just a conference
When was this?
a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Recent, and I'm saying, see, God can get, like, he's waking Muslims up in dreams, and Jesus coming to the Muslim and saying, I am God, not your Muslim stuff, not your Islam. Repent before me. And they get saved and they get turned. And nobody asks God to do that, because I have this faith that, this is God's world. This is not my world. I have some ideas and some opinions, some things I tried to learn. But really, I don't know how to make, how do we have a really powerful evangelistic meeting? I don't know. I mean, the powerful evangelistic meeting that happened in Acts 2 was they come out of there filled with the Spirit and speaking in different tongues, and a whole 3,000 people got saved that day because people were coming along hearing their own language in Jerusalem, from nowhere. And this Jew was speaking a language in Chinese nobody knew, and everybody's going, why are you doing that gibberish? And then the guy goes, that's not gibberish, that's Chinese, that's my language. That's not gibberish, that's German, that's my language. And they would hear, and God said, let me show you how it's done. And we have this idea, we can fix this. We can come up with an idea to fix the situation in...
Now, John, I know for a fact that, to what you're saying there, I can't fix any of these problems. I don't think anybody can fix any of these problems.
No, I don't think there is a fix, although there's a fake fix.
Like, they're trying to fix it. It's funny because these, like you're talking about Trump and his fixes, he's been trying to go like, okay, we're going to do that, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And the bureaucracy that is like, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
We got to slow all this down.
Yeah, I think ultimately he will cause things to happen because of what he's doing. I agree with that. Yeah. But if he thinks that's going to fix America,
he's crazy.
Permanently, it's not going to happen because
I've really got him figured out. Like, I really have him figured out, and I think a lot of people really have not figured him out. Because we're talking about, like, we've talked about personality stuff. He actually has the same personality type as Tyler, technically. The same personality type. Now, there are obviously different kind. It has different manifestations, but he's just on to the next thing. Like, people think he's like a mastermind. Not a mastermind. No. He is a person who gets in front of people, knows how to, like, interact with them, and then, like, does the thing and then just moves on. That's it. Like, he is a person who is constantly on the move, who's just...
That's called pragmatic. If it works, okay. If it doesn't work, he moves on.
And if the person sounds reasonable and they have some level of reputation... So people are, like, surprised how he gets hoodwinked by, like, crazy neocons that, like, want to take over the world. Well, it's because when, you're pulled back and you're just hearing the news snippets of the things, you're not understanding how the sausage is made. They'll go to a meeting and then they'll explain things and they'll keep explaining it. And then it's like, well, all that makes sense. Like, well, that makes sense why you would be doing it like this or whatever. And that's why you'd be like, yeah. Then he walks out the meeting, and then things naturally happen of which would happen if you do those stupid policies or this, that, or the other. But he doesn't care. That's not his character. His character is, it's like an improvisational person. At every single moment, he's improvising based on, are these people hostile? Okay, I'm gonna do this like dance thing. That's his whole nature.
Yeah,
which ends up being he's a chaos creator. That's it. That's all he can actually do is just create a bunch of chaos. Then it seems like it's all right. Like maybe it's putting a thread of order. That's a good idea to put a thread of order in there. A thread of order.
One day it will have its fruit, but
agreed. Yeah.
There's so many other problems that it's going to be short lived. I think. But
what's going to happen? This is something I wanted to mention earlier. The importance of understanding that people do what you do and not what you say they do. It's the most base leadership thing that anybody ever heard, which is like, don't, do what I say, not what I do, like that concept. The reality is, well, why would you need to say that? Well, you would need to say that because they are actually following your example. Literally what you do. So the only way to actually show somebody what to do is you do the thing and you encourage them to do the thing.
Well, when you talk about leadership, let's ask the question: who was the greatest, best leader ever? There's no way that anyone can beat Jesus. He was the greatest leader ever, and yet we look at him and go.
That's actually okay, yeah.
And yet, by the world's terms, you see those are trees out there growing just fine in nature.
Yeah.
Jesus grew up in God and the kingdom of God, wonderful. But we can't seem to follow that. We can follow our own level. We can follow our own ideas. But nobody seems to be able to follow the nature because Jesus was a different leader. He was a different leader. And then we say, you're not a very good leader. Not only did you not rebuke this one and zap this one and straighten this one out, you continued on your way, and then you got killed for it by murderers in the Jewish realm, and you died, and basically died of failure. But see, this is what I'm talking about. We can judge it by our own plumb lines and our own levels, but Jesus wasn't a failure. He was an extreme success. And he came to a place where became the greatest leader that ever lived. And how he did that was God. He followed the Father. He did what he saw the Father do. And so somehow leadership has to include the amazing leadership that God has. God's leadership is amazing, and it doesn't line up with our plumb lines and our level lines. It doesn't. We can't sit there and make judgment calls on whether that was a good idea or not, because once he died, he conquered sin, he conquered death, he conquered the enemy. He took care of the sin problem, he took care of the religious problem. He got everything was conquered, and we're going to see when it's all over. We're going to see when the day he comes. We're going to say, oh my goodness, he really did completely conquer. This leader went this certain way. No one understood it. And yet he conquered the world. He conquered the universe. He is the king of the universe. And they're going to say it because of what he's done. Not because he says what it is, but because of what he's done. It's not because of what we've done. It's because of who he is and what he's done. And that's a basic fact. And that's what makes me not be hard-nosed about certain things. I used to be, but now I'm saying, but I'm used to saying, now I'm saying, maybe I don't quite know as much as I think I know.
Yeah.
And maybe what I say all those trees are crooked. They'll never grow up and be mature trees. They don't even have any rhyme or reason.
Gosh, I get so many replies to what you're saying. Because people say exactly what you're saying all the time, that they judge nature. Or they'll superimpose they'll I know that's the overarching thing. There's a person who I've been following for many years now in like the farming and growing space, and he's without a doubt had the largest impact on my thinking and the style of doing things. And I realize now how in error I am. But
I know that's what
oh my gosh. So let's talk about that tree line right there, okay? And all these trees here. There's so many life lessons you can pull out of that tree line. John.
Oh, yeah.
We had the hurricane. On this street, prior to the hurricane,
the hurricane can't come this far. It can't do that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, of
it
course.
Did, yeah.
Not only can it do that, it's done it at least 10 times in this last 100 years, but it never happens. So anyways.
How smart we are.
So on this street, it took down a ton of trees. You know what some of the trees it took down? The biggest trees.
Yeah.
The mightiest trees. So in other words, everybody's like, oh, you can't cut down the big trees because they last forever and all this. And it's like, those were the ones that went down.
Those are the ones that are gone.
The biggest tree in the county went down.
Yep.
I mean, it was sad. It was a big tree. But guess what? It didn't make it. That's just reality to it. So, okay, that one alone. So in other words, it does not matter. You can pull, I mean, these are the principles that we've talked about. The ground truths that you need to lean your whole life on because they are what they are. They're the eternal things. And the reality is it does not matter how big or how awesome you are, a storm can rip by and you're gone.
It's like the old thing. I was sharing this with some other guys. Oh, at the men's breakfast thing. Okay, I was saying to them, you remember how the guy he's looking to God, and he falls off a cliff for whatever reason. 3/4 of the way down, he grabs a branch and he's saved. He's sitting there holding onto a branch and crying out to God, help me, save me. I'm stuck out here. I'm on a limb. I'm on a branch. And so men, they don't have a rope long enough to get them down there. They can't get a helicopter close enough because they'll hit the cliff. Man can't save him. He can't save himself. So he cries out to God, and God says, if you trust me, I'll save you. Let go of the branch.
Oh, yeah.
And the joke is, the guy goes, is there anybody else up there? Did you get a shot of me?
I'm trying to record videos as you go.
You're trying to break your phone. So the guy's on the branch and he goes, let go of the branch. And God's like, so the man goes, is there anyone else up there? He will not trust God. When God says let go, he thinks, well, no, that can't be right. You can't do that. God, you can't tell me to do that. That would not be right. And yet, when things happen and we say that was God, we don't know it until it happens. Then we go, whoa, wait a minute, that was God. Whoa, wait a minute, that was God. And we didn't know it.
Yeah.
And so when we get so smart and so intelligent and so brainy and so, I know how to, you lose something because it's kind of like that scripture that says that he that thinks he stand, let him fall. He actually is going to fall. Yeah, or the man's wisdom can only take him so far. It's all these truths that are in the Bible. In your weakness, you're made strong. How does that make sense? And so we're still trying to catch up with the way God does things. Not his works. He can do mighty works like you can't believe. Some works of God are amazing. But sometimes we have to get to a place, or somehow we got to learn his ways. The way of God is a totally different thing, and we can't structure up a building and say this. We got this thing according to the ways of God. No, you don't. You think you do, but you can't make the judgment call like the trees we're talking about out there. There are every rhyme and reason, and then there's a birch tree in the middle of nowhere, and then there's a elm, and then there's this and that. And they're tall, they're short, they're crooked, they're bent. Well, we can't make a judgment call on it because we don't know better.
Let's go even further. To your point there, there's all sorts of small trees, and so you said something earlier was like, oh, they're not going to reach their full potential, or they're not like good trees, and it's like, yeah, but they're out there and they're making it. So it's one of those things that society has done many times over, this idea that this concept of normal is not real. Normal is not real at all. There is no normal.
By the way, there's no perfection. And yet, in the imperfection of all that nature out there,
yeah,
that's perfection.
Oh, it is.
But we don't look at it that way.
You may even say that, and if you want to, this is kind of my point earlier about trying to lift up leadership. It's this weird paradox that it's like not until you've decided that you are going to give appreciation and thanks can you like see the things that are there. Because the reality is I could also look at that and go, well, that's actually like a perfect tree line. For me, it's actually very perfect. I'm very glad God came through and knocked out all those pines because now we got a lot of light coming in. Yes.
Yes.
So now, I'm content that they got those.
But you couldn't have had hire a guy and say, "Hey, guy, go out there and fix this. I need more light. I don't want those."
They would do a terrible job.
Yeah, well, who would know?
Most, and I mean, from my background in growing things, I already know that most people have no idea what they're doing. I've actually had people, like we've tried to hire people to cut a grass and they won't do it because they very quickly realize they don't know what they can cut, what they can't cut. How the hell can you not know what to cut? Don't cut the bushes. But they're not plants that they've ever seen, so they're just like, this is way beyond. I don't want to be responsible for doing damage to these things because I don't know what's going on. Ergo, it ends up becoming a little bit more wild. But one of the most profound things that the guy I was alluding to earlier basically kind of taught me was the realization, and I tell people this, I go, who watered any of those trees? Any of them? Who planted them, put them in their perfect spot? So people ask me like, what kind of do you put like fertilizer when you plant them? And I'm looking past them and I'm looking at those trees like, who fertilized any of these trees? None of them. Look how big they are. And guess what? There was a ton in there that died. No one knows or cares.
There's another couple of concepts as well, because some things have to grow to their own place. And whatever happened, whether a hurricane or old age, they died off.
That's right.
And all that was part of the natural situation.
Yeah.
So bringing this down to church, though, bringing this down to leadership, bringing this down to with people.
Down to people.
If you are a leader that's arrogant and is autocratic, I'm in charge and I decide, God help you. I mean, he'll probably work with you mercifully, but basically you're going down. I know that's not popular, but leader, if you got it all together and you think you know what you're doing and you're convinced of that and you told people that, you're in trouble because you aren't. You're not the be-all, end-all. You have to hear. Now, if you listen to what God says and do what God says, he will come through for you in ways we don't understand. But nevertheless, that doesn't make you a great leader. It means you're a listener and you're obeying. You're working with the Spirit. You're working with God because ultimately that's his. That's all his. And if we take him out of that wonderful, beautiful creation and walk him over to this building, goes, you thought that was great. Check this out, God. Check my building out. Level, plumb, warm, this. And it's like, he's going, seriously? We can't talk God into another way. He has his ways and his means, and they're not like ours. Their thoughts, his ways are not ours. And so we've got to try to ask God, Lord, show me your loving kindness in the morning, it says in Psalms. Show me your ways, not your works. Let me tell you what God did. He parted the sea. That's a work. That's a great thing that he can do. God can do anything. Tower of Babel, confused all the tongues.
Ways is a process. Processes have like multiple end results. They actually have a trajectory.
It's all that. It's all that. And we've got to find out and listen to what the Spirit is saying to the churches. That's what it says in Revelation. We need to hear what God is saying because, as I said, when I look out the window, those trees do not look orderly. They don't look, I mean, you could move one over 2 feet. No one would care or know. I mean,
they're all next to each other, too. That's another thing.
Kind of next to each other. And like,
how close are you supposed to plant trees? I don't know, but I'm seeing 50-foot tall trees that are planted 1 foot next to another one.
Try 75 feet tall, some of them. Yeah. So we got the idea that you can't do this and you can't do that. I went up to a guy. I pulled up next to him. He was in his little Jeep thing. He was in his little, what do you call it, side-by-side?
Yeah.
So I pulled up next to him. He was about to go up a driveway next to me on a dirt driveway. And I pulled up next to him. I said, hey, and he was probably my age. He looked like an older guy. I said, hey, you can't do that. And he goes, do what? And I go, I don't know. And he laughed and I laughed and I took off. Never saw him before, never saw him again. But he knew, you can say I can't do it, but I'm doing it. And okay, I can't do this, and yet, be quiet about it. You don't know anything. You think you can't do that? Oh, let me show you something. And so that's what I'm trying to say. Some of us have to lighten up and let go of some of this leadership stuff. Like I know, I've been through this. I'm something else. Whoopee. I mean, if you want to boil it down, I never had a church that grew past 150 people, or never had a church that built its own building and went on and on and on, still going on. I mean, I never actually had anything that was of great success and, that kind of thing. But if you judge it in man's terms, I'm a serious failure. I am. But in God's terms, he hasn't given up on me yet, and I'm not dead yet. Maybe in his terms, I'm more than a failure. I'm a successful failure. Because sometimes people need to be a successful failure.
Well, I've heard defined that success is better defined as persistence, and persistence in a particular path rather than an achievement.
As long as persistence is not tenacity like a bulldog, where you're so stupid that he just, you're in a rut, but you don't know you're in a rut. And a rut is like a grave with the ends kicked out. You're in a grave, but you don't know it. That would not be good. But yeah, we need to be steadfast. Be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. That's a scripture. It's very important to be constant and keep going, persistent, not give up, not quit. And
Well, it's funny because you say people say these things and they get all rah rah about them, but the reality is you have to do them when you don't want to. that's the irony of those things.
Yeah, but I didn't want
That
you
it's
to
like
say
you-
that.
you know-
I didn't want you to say that because that convicts people.
What do you mean?
You have to do that. You have to keep going. Don't say that.
You do.
Yeah, but we don't want to hear that. I want to have ice cream and cake, okay?
Well, to me, I just got to laugh about it because just when you really have these actual experiences, like it's like I was, talking to Virginia yesterday. She did not want to put her laundry away, and she's super dramatic, and I'm like,
Virginia who?
Virginia.
Oh, Virginia, little.
Yeah. So she
Your daughter.
she comes over. I said, like, come over here, because she's being so dramatic in the back. And I was like, look, why are you being dramatic? She's like, well, I don't want to do it. And I was like, let me tell you about don't want to do it. I mean, sometimes you don't want to eat, you don't want to sleep, you don't want to do this or that, but you have to do that. It's just part of life.
Well, how about if I don't want to give you a spanking, but I have to? How about that?
That's a good one.
I don't
say
want
that.
to, but guess what? Now you understand what it's like.
That's
Hilarious.
The truth, though, to that point, though, is persistence. You have and not giving up. You have to do it when you don't want to, and that's the only time that it matters. Because when you want to do it, isn't the time that's not persistence, and that's not giving up, and that's not that.
Yeah.
It's actually during all those times of which it's like, what do you do now? I mean, there's a lot of things, but I will say that those moments are a good time to do reflection. Does this make sense?
Sure.
Is this really what I should be doing? Maybe this is a concept. The person who taught me about forest stuff, his main thing was about man creates concepts, and concepts are useful tools. They're like organizational tools to do things, but a concept is never reality itself. And the problem is when you start taking concepts and you start applying them in the real world, they start to break down in the ways that they were a faulty concept to begin with. Now, arrogant people will say, well, that was just not a good concept. Like, it didn't map to reality. And it's like, no concept perfectly maps to reality. Therefore, it's eventually going to fall. And guess what? Even the most smartest person that comes up with something, there's going to be a thing they did not think about. And that is always going to happen. And when in hindsight, you look at it like, of course that was going to happen. But in foresight, you never would have thought that was going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. And some of these are all predictable. So one of his big things is he tells people not to plant orchards, that there is no orchard in nature. But there are tree lines. There are forest edges. And if you don't plant a forest edge will come.
Yeah.
And the way it works and all that is like no one is tending to any of that. So this is kind of like back to your comment about alignment with God's way. Why don't you plant in God's way?
Yeah.
God does not plant orchards.
Have you noticed that?
Doesn't. It doesn't plant in orchards.
We have to hear from God.
I know, because when I think about what do you think that normal people think the Garden of Eden looked like? They probably think that it was like this perfectly ordered rows of whatever. That's not what I see. What I see is they literally, it kind of looked exactly like it looks now, except you could eat from like all the bushes. It just probably looks like nature. Just
Well, we
a
wouldn't
natural.
be hoeing a row, hoeing meaning cutting down the little weeds to keep what we call another weed growing.
Correct.
We wouldn't weed around the weeds, but some of those things are really powerful weeds of healing and help, and we don't even know that. And so
Oh, there's truth to that.
we have got to be hearing what he says to do and do it. When he knows which one's got to be hoed out and which ones don't, and he needs to teach us. And I think there's a lot of books out there telling us. I mean, look at what I think the breathing problem that I went through, the main, what do they call it, Mullen.
Oh,
Mullen.
yeah,
If
yeah,
I didn't have that Mullen, it was anti-inflammatory. It helped me a lot, and we took it often, and it really helped me a lot. There's such truth in nature that we look at as weeds. We pull them out and throw them away, and yet we probably shouldn't. Maybe we need to hear a better way, and that's why we need to hear from God.
Well, it's funny because, to take that parable or in biblical references about if it doesn't fruit, cast it into the fire. If people are too stupid to know whether the thing is fruit or not, or if it does fruit, I don't. You can't help that. That's the state that we're at, because there's just seems to be these kinds of base things. Again, would be my judgment. So I'll take it as it is. But it just seems like we live in an era now that people have no connection to reality. They don't even know these things. Like, they can't even understand Jesus's parables because they have no earthly they've never grown anything in their entire life. They don't know that fruits during a certain period of time, and it doesn't fruit during other periods of time. And it doesn't matter what you do, it ain't going to change that.
And yet Jesus rebuked the fig tree, not at a time
That's true.
when he should have been fruit.
That's true.
And the disciples go to him and say, Jesus, this is not the time for fruit. You don't know what a fruit tree is. And he goes, really? You're talking to me, right? The creator of this thing.
It is funny because it is. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was kind of thinking about it in the back of my mind. The funny thing about that, in order to even catch that, you'd have to understand fully about what I just said.
Yeah.
And why that particular thing is particularly unique, because they would not have put that in there had they not known that.
So Jesus knew when to rebuke that fig tree and when not to. And we say, that's not the time to rebuke it. Don't rebuke it now. It's kind of like in its formative state. Don't do it now.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, your leaves will wither and you will die. I mean, the disciples had to go, oh, we don't really know what the heck we're talking about. Because they come back later and they go, look, Lord, your tree withered and died. And he goes, that's what I told it to do. That's what I said. And we're waking up to some of the, that's why it says when the judgment seat of Christ comes, we'll be judged whether it's gold, silver, precious stones, or wood, hay, and stubble. And it'll be burned as by fire. Wood, hay, and stubble will be burned up. Well, we think, okay, a fire like we know will come and burn the dry stuff and the bad stuff, and will keep the silver, the gold, and wood. No, back up the truck. If you do some research, you don't know what the gold, the silver, and the precious stones are in your life. Some things that we call no good and are wood, hay, and stubble, he's saying, oh, no. Those are the precious things that will be tried by my refining fire, my refining consummation. Fire is a constant. I will consume what is no good, and I will purify gold, silver, precious stone, what is good, but you don't know what that is all the time. So when we judge, and we sit here in their window, and that pastor, he's a jerk. He'll amount to nothing. He's not going anywhere. Nothing, 0, 0, nothing, 0, curse. And God's saying, you don't know what I know. I look on the heart, not on the mind. And there's some gold and silver and precious stones in his life you don't know anything about. And when the judgment seat of Christ comes, we're going to say, you know what? He's going to the judgment seat of Christ, and God's going to burn him up. That's like these stupid idiots that are out there have a church sign that says, God is so going to whack you. And the Baptist things are up there saying, you homos and you this and you that, you're going to get killed and burned with fire. And I'm like, are you guys idiots? You don't know anything about anything if you're sitting there in judgment. That's why Jesus said, don't judge unless you, and the word there is sentence. Don't pronounce a sentence lest you be sentenced.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Don't back up your truck a little bit and observe a little, because you're dumb as a rock.
I'd say taking the parable of the tares is enough. That should make you pause.
Yeah.
It says really clearly, and then it's even explained. So it's not even just a parable that's unexplained that we just move on. It's a parable That if you understand anything about growing, which most people don't, that maybe that's why they don't get it. It's then explained, which is like we got to
Actually-
wait till the end to do the judgment, and you're not going to
Yeah.
be the one that does it.
Yeah. In fact, it says in the Bible, wait to the end. Give it some time. Even Paul said, I'm not concerned that you judge me, because in time when it's over with, you will be in my favor, not against me. But right now you don't like it and you don't like me. Okay, well, I can live with that because I know that it's a very small thing that you judge me. It says it in 1 Corinthians 4. Because he knew that God has the final say about my life. And I hope that that's true for me. I sit and say, the Lord knows, the Lord knows, the Lord knows. I mean, if I've ever heard one preacher say, a great preacher I used to listen to said, hey, you got to know that the Lord knows, and leave it in his hands. Leave it with him, because you don't know. You think you know, but you don't know. So if we come out to a good taping here of an hour about God's way, doesn't line up with our way, nature out there, beautiful nature, is not looking anything like this building, and yet perfection, growth, longevity, and we make a judgment call on it basis of our own doings and our own buildings and stuff about that nature. You can't do that. Yes, those trees are crooked and bent and this, that, and the other compared to our plumb lines and our levels. But on the other hand, if we were in the forest looking at this, we would say, look at that poor looking structure. That poor thing will never make it. And we got to wake up to that.
Well, that's alive and this is dead.
On top of that,
And this is never going to come alive. And that will continue on.
yep, there you go.
All right. We'll see you next week, right?
Lesson from the trees, yes. So we
Go ahead.
oh, you got to think.